Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Giving Students a Choice and a Voice. I'll be picking up my friend in a moment because I found someone to interview. He's a parent, he's a teacher, he's a lot of things. And I'm driving to Hoboken right now to go get him. And then we'll probably go get something to eat. We'll chat. I'll film it. So stay tuned.
Whoa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe, and this is...
Teachers in cars getting smoothies.
What you drinking?
All right, if you really want to know this stuff, it's cacao, spirulina, super green powder, kale, spinach, hemp, chia seeds, maca root. What else is in there?
Cacao.
Cacao.
You're a parent? You're a teacher?
I do.
right,
Both those things, it's true.
This is my first interviewee. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm the first interviewee. They call me the Madonna. Long story. My friends call me Cheese. The government calls me Anthony. You pick whichever one you like. I teach children's chess. I raise children. I teach meditation, and I do stand-up comedy. So Joe thought that it would be a good idea to figure out what I'm doing to make the world a better place and make sure that kids realize that they have a lot more power than they thought they did. So, hi, we're going to talk about that.
So, Cheese, you came to my school several times, many years ago. You were my inspiration to start meditating. You were my inspiration to get my students to start meditating. So, I guess the first thing I want to ask you, you've come to my school. What stood out to you in my classroom and in my school when you first visited us?
Everyone was black.
That's a lot of black kids. That's true.
The thing that was awesome, right, was it was actually an authentic environment. It didn't feel like you were in a classroom. It felt like there were a bunch of people hanging out, discovering who they were together. And the only distinction that I saw between that and a bunch of kids chilling on the corner was that it was clear that you were in charge. And that little distinction is the boundary between order and chaos. Say it was history or say it was meditation. That was just the excuse that was used to bring people together. And then that actually gave a rich understanding of the subject matter at hand because the people were larger than what the class was scheduled for on the docket. And that's why I was willing to come back a bunch of times because it was like, whoa, like there's a good thing going on here.
Nice, thank you. So you're a teacher yourself. You're a teacher of chess. How many kids do you teach at one time? Describe your classroom.
The most kids I've probably between 20 and 30 kids at once. An average class is normally around 10 to 12.
All right. So what I want to know about in your classroom, you described mine in terms of the tone, the environment. Is it serious? Is it lighthearted? Because you're a lighthearted guy. He's a stand-up comedian, by the way. Give me the tone of your classroom and these kids.
All right. So when they're in the 4-year-old classes, it's seriously like, who wants to know how the king got his powers? One day, the king was in the 64 square kingdom and he was sleeping. Everybody show me sleeping. And then the whole class. The more advanced class, I call it the tournament class.
Yeah.
That class is relegated for really serious players. That class starts off more with a serious tone, but then they're rewarded with me doing a rap song if they get really hard questions right. And the rap songs go for the intermediate classes too. In the more advanced classes, if they get something right that's really challenging, I'll let them pick an animal. Like I'll turn into a Chinese squirrel or something like that. And a Chinese squirrel chasing a rat, and they love something like that. They love it.
And these are more
13-year-olds
13-year-olds or 12-year-olds? Or?
They range in that class from 8 to 13.
How do you infuse choice? Because this series is called Giving Students a Choice and a Voice. Obviously letting the students be in charge of their own education.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of one of the things you just explained it. Any more ways you infuse choice in your classes?
A lot of times what can happen is, I mean, in those particular motions, it's who wants to answer the question. I never make a kid answer a question that doesn't want to answer a question. Right? there's other deeper matters too, where if I see, it's subtler, more silent things. If I see a kid putting his head down, right, I'll very rarely reprimand him for it because I know he's just not in it at that point in time. And then what I'll start to do is, if I know the child well, I'll start to say something that I think might entice that child. Like if I know one of these kids, just a loose example is into that game Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
Fortnite
is so hot right now.
I'll say something about my knight's building a fort in the center of the board, right? And then I know that this might
like fort. What is it?
yeah. So the linguistic connection will go off in his brain, and then that'll make him pick his head up himself. So then he's choosing to get back involved with the class. When I first started getting involved with teaching children, everybody told me that I should go into the education system and teach because I was really good at it. And I looked at them and said I would be fired in about 3 days because I would not take the bureaucratic crap that goes on. And the reality of the situation is I think that if we're trying to transcend the structure that's in place, you need teachers that care about the kids more than they care about their jobs.
How do you feel about detention?
I think it's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life because what happens is I know what my kid. I make sure the disciplinary act, my son's 2, the disciplinary act is really connected with the behavior that he did, right? So in the moment, say he throws a tantrum, like the other day he took my keys and threw my keys. I made him pick up my keys. And we didn't go in the house until he picked up my keys.
What you described is actually a great classroom management strategy called logical practice, where if a kid did something wrong, fix it, correct your mistake. Locking you up and throwing away the key, detention or prison, we know how well that works.
Detention, I really think, is given by mentally ill people that have power control issues, that are just trying to assert dominance over things that they forgot to understand because they grew up and got a little bit of power. One of my favorite quotes that I made up myself is, you could tell a lot about a person by what they do when they have the smallest amount of power. And if the first thing you're doing is throwing kids in a room when they're supposed to be out experiencing life, I think it's a symptom of mental illness that's permeated through the false authority structures of people that were not educated appropriately to do the job at hand. I mean, if you think about it, right, if you take summer camp and you mix it with detention, now you have a detention camp. Like, I don't understand how they think that this is functional. And the only reason that they ever thought it was functional is because it made their day easier. If I go into a class, it's so much easier to just be a jerk to the kids, send everybody out of the room, and just yell at them all so they sit there like little toy soldiers, and it's just selfish on my part.
Not. I'm telling you, those teachers have bigger problems because they end up doing that every day, and they never get peace. They never get peace because they just don't like what they're doing. What you said before, so you have to care about the kids. You have to love the kids in order to truly get to them and teach them that, a lot of schools are getting rid of detention, which is what my school did 3 years ago when I was promoted. They're infusing meditation, and the state is actually pushing it. Like, you should do more meditation. I mean, some schools are using it in place of discipline, which I'm not a fan of, because I think you should choose meditation.
Because if you
have to meditate.
If you tell a kid to go meditate as a form of discipline, he's just going to close his eyes and take a nap.
But some schools,
they're trying though, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they have someone like me or someone like you there facilitating this program, then. But if you have a false authority figure, that definitely can be tough. But
we are teachers with selfie sticks walking for smoothies.
No, this is a professional camera. They don't know this is a selfie stick.
Oh, okay. We are teachers.
A GoPro or something.
We are teachers.
Very
Hi. This is Cheese Kozakowski, and we are teachers on cameras getting smoothies.
Where are we going?
Simply Juiced in Hoboken. Just a quick plug for this place. It's like my kitchen, and I don't think it's possible to be healthy without this place in Hoboken. That's all. Find a place like this near you.
So Cheese is a parent. His kid is
adorable.
Right behind us. So we're a block away from his home. So what are the similarities between teaching and parenting?
Whew. All right, you spend a lot more time with your kid.
Hopefully.
So that's really important. And plus, unless you're a Mormon, you only got like 1 or 2 of them. Where kids, you got like, to your students, you got like 20 of them. So there's a lot more personal attention that you can get to your kids, so that it's a big distinction. But the comprehensive strategy is pretty much the same for me. It's just be a person that loves them, right? Like, what you need to do is you need to treat them like a 2-year-old person or like a 10-year-old person, right? Where they have all the same rights, privileges, desires, feelings, and thoughts as a person. They just haven't had enough time to develop them. And then what you need to do is be a person with them that's had enough time to develop them and authentically interact with them. You don't have to try, you don't have to teach them. You just be with them, and the fact that you're taking good care of yourself and you're authentically interacting with them seems to guide them so they can make their own choices. I mean, our goal is to create free-thinking adults, not well-trained children.
We're here at Simply Juiced. She's actually, you came to my school and did a little bit of a health talk, freaked my kids out, and told them about all the things they were eating that we all grew up eating in America. Telling us what's, drink milk. It's good for your bones. That might not be funny to you guys, but
I'm vegan, so it's pretty funny to me.
How often do you get stomach aches?
I don't.
My kids all the time in school are just, oh, my stomach hurts, and I was the same way in high school. I ate garbage, pizza, and a whole bunch of other crap in high school. Cheese was the first vegetarian/vegan in my friend circle. I always wanted to, but 25 years of being conditioned and eating, an American diet, it was hard. But I'm proud to say I'm vegetarian now, vegan most days, largely thanks to this guy. But I used to get stomach aches and go home from school. The nurse would call my mom, like, all right, you got to pick up Joey. He's not feeling well. And I would tell him I was constipated because I didn't want to in the school. Excuse me. I didn't want to poop in the school.
Your body is a machine whose job is to produce conscious awareness. The food that you put in it is the fuel to do that. If you are eating things that aren't food, pizza is not food. Hamburgers, cheeseburgers, these things are not food. They are heavily processed, hormone injected, steroid pumped, disguised toxins that have some protein in it so that you feel somewhat nourished.
Where do you get your protein, bro? You get that a lot?
I get that a lot. I mean, and what I say to people is, yeah, human beings evolved eating meat, so I don't think that we should really bother people while they're eating their cheeseburgers. But this is a video about my, what we're doing to make ourselves better teachers, so that's why I'm talking about it. I get my protein dominantly from lentils, hemp, quinoa. Real critical thing in understanding that your cognition begins in your gut, and that's not an abstract statement. If your brain doesn't have proper fuel, how's it supposed to function?
Right. To bring it back to schools, what do students need?
We all know that when we were in school, doing well was a means to an end for us. Normally, the act of the learning process really, I don't think was stressed, at least in my upbringing. And I was forced to kind of move through a school like a duck on a conveyor belt, hurtled off into the corporatocracy. And you go through those things to get the good grades so that you get the approbation from your authority figures. Giving them a sense of self and giving them a sense of purpose and drive is the primary object of the educational process. So what we need to do is we need to raise competent individuals and use the subject matter that we teach as a mechanism, as a means to an end, but not the end as itself.
What kind of subjects or topics would you want in schools?
Well, first things first, burn the standardized tests. Now, what I see when I look at the school systems at all levels is that when you have these standardized state mandatory tests, they put so much pressure on the teacher to pump the kids through and get good grades on this test that the soul, the content, the decency is pulled out of the classroom and replaced with a number 2 pencil. And what I
It's all electronic now.
Okay.
The thing I always told myself, I was a history teacher, I said, the least important thing I'm going to teach you is history. But like you said, using history, using the content as a mechanism to really get real and empower them to challenge authority, challenge me, challenge the structures, and to think. One of the videos I have up here is Psychology 101. You know, in my classroom, having kids who are impulsive, learning about the source of how they became impulsive and why they still are. So I do. So in terms of these are the things that I had a classroom, and I was like, I want to infuse this. I'm an administrator, so there's meditation in my school. I'm encouraging teachers to do moral development, within their subjects. So first, I want to ask you, like, topics to maybe help teachers here. What can they infuse in their class? If they're a history teacher, if they're a math teacher, what can they infuse? They can obviously infuse meditation, math, other subjects. I mean, I think chess should be taught in schools for sure.
I was gonna say that when you first asked me, but it's just obnoxious to say that as a chess teacher. So the reason that chess is really effective is because it's actually comprehensive thinking, right? And I won't go too far deep into it, but that's why it's such an effective and attractive model to everybody that sees it. And it's kind of this cultural analogy for high-level strategic thought, because it's fully comprehensive. It doesn't just exist in the logical domains. What I would really encourage teachers to do is study Plato before, study Aristotle, study some of